Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Today we embark on an enthralling journey through the pages of history, myth and mystery as we dive deep into the enigmatic world of Atlantis. This legendary island, first mentioned by the philosopher Plato over 2 millennia ago, has captivated the imaginations of adventurers, historians and dreamers alike. With its tales of advanced civilizations, untold riches and sudden disappearance, Atlantis has become a symbol of lost knowledge and utopian societies that many have sought but none have found. But what really was Atlantis? And where could it have possibly been located, if it even existed? Today, we're going to explore the most likely answers to these age-old questions, sifting through historical clues, geological evidence, mythological narratives, and common sense to piece together the puzzle of this mythical land. So, fasten your seatbelts and let's set sail on this extraordinary voyage through time and possibility as we unravel the secrets of Atlantis and its timeless allure in popular culture. Plato, in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, gives us the only accounts of Atlantis that exist. Every mention of Atlantis by later thinkers, whether it's Aristotle musing on the philosophical implications, Strabo mapping the known world, or Pliny the Elder cataloguing natural history, all trace back to Plato. It's as if Plato threw a stone into the pond of history, and we're still watching the ripples. In Timaeus, Plato sets the stage with a dialogue about the universe, society, and man's place within it. And then, almost casually, he introduces us to Atlantis through a tale told by Critias. Critias recounts a story passed down through his family about an island empire situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules. But it's in the next dialogue, named after Critias, where Plato really presents a detailed account of Atlantis as a powerful and advanced island nation that existed in prehistoric times. This dialogue is consistent with the information introduced in Timaeus, but offering a much more detailed and vivid description of Atlantis's geography, society, and ultimate downfall. It delves into the origins of Atlantis, its geographical layout, societal organization, and the characteristics that defined it as an almost utopian society. Plato not only delves into the story of Atlantis, but also sets up a comparison between Atlantis and Athens. Through the narrative, Plato compared the militaristic and expansionist nature of Atlantis with the valor and resilience of ancient Athens, especially highlighting how Athens, despite being less powerful and technologically advanced than Atlantis, was able to resist Atlantean aggression. Despite its initial virtue and prosperity, Atlantis eventually fell into moral decay, becoming greedy and power-hungry, which led to its divine punishment. However, Critias is famously incomplete, leaving us hanging on the precipice of the story's climax, yearning for details of Atlantis's downfall that are never fully divulged. Now let's distill what we've gleaned from these two texts into a clearer picture of Atlantis. Imagine a land beyond the known world, past the Pillars of Hercules, which we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. According to Plato, Atlantis was there, in the vast expanse of the Atlantic, a mighty island nation larger than Asia Minor and Libya combined. Atlantis was no ordinary island. It was a marvel of natural beauty and human engineering. Picture concentric circles of land and water, creating a series of natural defences and lush landscapes. The capital city, a masterpiece of ancient architecture, sat at the centre, with circular islands linked by bridges, showcasing the Atlanteans' mastery over their environment. Atlantis was a civilization ahead of its time, boasting a sophisticated society under the leadership of a confederation of kings. These rulers, descendants of the god Poseidon, presided over a land where the people valued wisdom, art, and the power of community over gold and possessions. It was a society that, at its zenith, exemplified the potential for human greatness. The Atlanteans wielded a formidable military, their influence extending across the Mediterranean and beyond. Their attempts to conquer foreign lands, including Athens, showcase a civilization at the height of its power, but also hint at the seeds of its eventual downfall. Finally, we are told that Atlantis eventually succumbed to greed and hubris, as already mentioned. Plato suggests that the gods, angered by this moral decay, sent a cataclysm of earthquakes and floods, erasing Atlantis from the face of the earth in a single day and night of tragedy. According to Plato, only a muddy shoal remained as a reminder of the island's former place in the world, and a cautionary tale of the fragility of civilization. Diving into the depths of history and myth, we first turn our investigative lens towards Thera, now known as Santorini, and its connection to the enigmatic Minoan civilization. Was this island, with its dramatic cliffs and stunning vistas, once the home of the legendary Atlantis? Let's explore the evidence and theories that make this possibility not just a tale of fancy, but a compelling chapter in our quest for Atlantis. The Minoan civilization was flourishing on the islands of Crete and Thera around 2600 to 1100 BC as a marvel of the Bronze Age, a world that was ancient to even Plato and his contemporaries. Renowned for its stunning palaces, advanced society, and mastery of the seas, the Minoans were the quintessential maritime power of their time. Their artistic achievements, complex architecture, and sophisticated trade networks speak volumes of a civilization far ahead of its contemporaries. Now, why do some scholars and enthusiasts believe that Thera could be the historical counterpart to Plato's Atlantis? The similarities are indeed striking. Like Atlantis, the Minoan civilization was highly advanced, with an emphasis on maritime prowess and architectural grandeur. The discovery of the Akrotiri settlement on Thera, preserved in volcanic ash, reveals a society of incredible sophistication for their time, with multi-storied buildings, intricate frescoes, and an elaborate drainage system. Moreover, the cataclysmic eruption of the Thera volcano around 1600 BC presents a scenario eerily reminiscent of Atlantis' downfall. This event was one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in recorded history, with the potential to devastate the Minoan settlements, create massive tsunamis, and alter the course of civilizations in the Mediterranean. The parallels between the sudden destruction of this advanced society and the cataclysmic end of Atlantis, as described by Plato, are compelling. Could the majestic city of Atlantis have been a major settlement of the Minoans themselves? Of course, no theory is without its criticisms, and the Thera-Minoan hypothesis is no exception. Among these, the timeline discrepancy often comes up for debate. Plato dated Atlantis' destruction to about 9,000 years before his own time, which is at odds with the timeline of the Minoan civilization and the Thera eruption. However, it's worth questioning. Would people in Plato's era really have had an accurate means of distinguishing between 1 and 9,000 years ago? Given the limitations of historical record-keeping and the penchant for oral traditions to embellish over time, this criticism might not be that substantial. Another criticism is that while the volcanic eruption on Thera was undeniably catastrophic, capable of inspiring legends of a sunken civilization, it doesn't perfectly match Plato's narrative of Atlantis sinking into the sea. There is evidence to suggest that the Minoan civilization continued to flourish for several centuries afterward, particularly on Crete. This continuation does not align with the total obliteration of Atlantis as described by Plato. However, the most pressing criticism of linking Thera and the Minoan civilization to Atlantis centers on geography, specifically the location. Plato was clear that Atlantis was situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, traditionally identified as the Strait of Gibraltar, placing it in the Atlantic Ocean. This detail poses a significant challenge to the Thera-Minoan hypothesis, as Thera, Santorini, is located in the Aegean Sea, well within the Mediterranean and not in the Atlantic as Plato described. This geographical discrepancy is not a minor detail that can be easily dismissed or explained away through geological changes or reinterpretations of Plato's texts. It strikes at the heart of the Atlantis narrative, suggesting that if Thera were Atlantis, then either Plato's account was fundamentally misunderstood or significantly altered through the ages. Yet, let's not entirely rule out the possibility that Plato's reference to the Pillars of Hercules might not strictly align with the Strait of Gibraltar as we understand it today. Ancient geographical terms were often fluid, and the knowledge of the world was far from complete. Could Plato have had a broader concept of the Atlantic Ocean, one that included the Mediterranean, or might the Pillars of Hercules have been a metaphorical term, signifying the boundary of the known world rather than a specific geographic location? As we continue our journey through the realms of history and myth, we venture from the volcanic shores of Thera to another intriguing site that has captured the imagination of those who quest after the truth of Atlantis. Nestled off the coast of Laconia, Greece, lies Pavlopetri, a submerged city that whispers tales of ancient glory and sophistication beneath the waves. Could this be the Atlantis that Plato spoke of? Discovered in 1967, Pavlopetri is the oldest known submerged city in the world, with origins dating back to at least 5,000 years ago. This ancient city, now lying beneath the sea off the Peloponnese coast, offers a stunning snapshot of Bronze Age society. With its complex urban planning, intricate street layouts, and the remnants of buildings, Pavlopetri stands as a testament to the advanced engineering and architectural skills of its inhabitants. What makes Pavlopetri a compelling candidate for the real Atlantis? First and foremost, its age and status as a submerged city align with the narrative of a civilization lost to the sea. The advanced urban planning and architecture mirror the descriptions of Atlantis's sophistication and technological prowess. The city's intricate design, complete with roads, buildings, and possibly even a water management system, speaks to a society that was remarkably advanced for its time, much like the Atlanteans. Moreover, Pavlopetri's location in the Mediterranean, near the cultural crossroads of ancient civilizations, could place it within the sphere of influence that Atlantis was said to have exerted. Its discovery underwater also lends a certain mystique and credibility to the idea of a civilization swallowed by the ocean, as Plato described. However, one major criticism is that Pavlopetri does not match the grand scale described by Plato. Atlantis was depicted as an empire dominating parts of Europe and Africa, larger than Asia Minor and Libya combined. In contrast, Pavlopetri, while significant, is much smaller and does not seem to have been the capital of a vast maritime power. While Akrotiri wasn't much bigger either, the Minoan civilization to which it was connected showed evidence of widespread influence and power, potentially fitting the bill for the dominion Plato described. Pavlopetri, on the other hand, lacks clear evidence of exerting such widespread influence or control. Additionally, the nature of Pavlopetri's submersion diverges significantly from the sudden cataclysm that is said to have claimed Atlantis. The archaeological evidence suggests that Pavlopetri sank gradually, over centuries, due to rising sea levels and seismic activity, a far cry from the single day and night of disaster that Plato describes. This gradual decline does not capture the dramatic demise that is so central to the Atlantis narrative. As we navigate away from the submerged mysteries of Pavlopetri, our quest for Atlantis steers us toward the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, to a trio of archipelagos that have long stirred the imagination of those seeking the lost civilization, the Azores, Madeira, and the Canary Islands. Situated in the very waters that Plato described as the domain of Atlantis, could these islands hold the key to one of history's greatest mysteries? First and foremost, the location of these island groups aligns closely with Plato's description of Atlantis being situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules. The Azores, Madeira, and the Canary Islands sit in the Atlantic, suggesting a geographical compatibility with the legend of Atlantis that few other sites can claim. Their position offers a tantalizing hint that we might be looking in the right direction. Moreover, the volcanic nature of these islands provides a plausible mechanism for the catastrophic end described by Plato. The archipelagos are known for their volcanic activity, with histories of eruptions and seismic events that could easily give rise to tales of a land sinking into the sea. This aspect of the island's geology not only fits the narrative of a sudden, cataclysmic destruction, but also adds a layer of scientific credibility to the theory that Atlantis' demise was as dramatic as the ancient texts suggest. The strategic location of these islands in the Atlantic would have made them ideal stepping stones for ancient maritime civilizations. Their potential to serve as hubs of trade and cultural exchange between continents could hint at a level of sophistication and naval capability reminiscent of what one would expect from Atlantis. The rich maritime history of these regions, with their navigational challenges and opportunities, mirrors the advanced seafaring society that Atlantis was said to be. Despite these compelling points, there are significant criticisms to address. Chief among them is the glaring lack of concrete evidence for an Atlantis-like civilization existing on the Azores, Madeira, or the Canary Islands. While the geographical and geological features align with Plato's descriptions, archaeological discoveries directly pointing to a civilization with the scale, complexity, and architectural achievements attributed to Atlantis are notably absent. Additionally, while the volcanic activity provides a scientifically plausible explanation for the destruction of an island, there is no definitive archaeological or geological evidence that such an event led to the disappearance of a large, advanced civilization in these regions. The islands, though rich in history and culture, do not currently show the ruins or remnants that one would expect from the mighty empire described by Plato. Furthermore, the timeline poses another formidable challenge in aligning these islands with the Atlantis of Plato's dialogues. As mentioned, Plato situates the destruction of Atlantis some 9,000 years before his time, placing the civilization's zenith and sudden downfall in a period roughly around 9600 BC. This timeline is very much at odds with the known histories of the Azores, Madeira and the Canary Islands, whose recorded human histories begin much later. Archaeological evidence from these islands suggests that human settlement did not occur until the Portuguese arrived in the 15th century. This is a far cry from the deep antiquity that Plato's account of Atlantis would necessitate. The Canary Islands, while having a prehistoric culture linked to the Berbers of North Africa, similarly lack evidence of human activity that would reach back to the epoch Plato describes. Of course, one might argue that any evidence of a great civilization such as Atlantis could still be hidden beneath the sea. While the ocean's depths hold many secrets, the likelihood of an entire civilization leaving no trace on the existing islands or in the accessible underwater regions seems unlikely. Great civilizations tend to leave indelible marks on their environments, monumental structures, artifacts, and cultural layers that persist through millennia. The absence of such evidence in these regions, despite thorough archaeological investigations, poses a significant challenge to the theory. As we delve deeper into the enigma of Atlantis and set our sail on the vast expanse of the Americas, our voyage takes an interesting turn. The suggestion that Atlantis might be linked to the Americas brings us not just to the doorstep of known civilizations like the Maya and the Inca, but to the possibility of an even older, sophisticated society that predates them, a civilization that could have been the precursor to the advanced cultures that later flourished in this vast land. The proposition that the Americas could hold the secret to Atlantis hinges on the impressive advancements of its pre-Columbian societies. Yet, to align more closely with Plato's timeline, we must entertain the idea that these known civilizations were not the beginning, but rather the heirs to a legacy that began long before. This invites us to consider the potential existence of a pre-Maya civilization that reached a level of development that was unparalleled in its time. The archaeological record of the Americas has revealed layers of human activity that stretch back thousands of years. Sites like Corral in Peru, one of the oldest urban centers in the Americas, hint at the early emergence of complex societies in the region. These ancient communities exhibited sophisticated urban planning, agricultural innovation, and social organization, hallmarks of a civilization that could rival the grandeur of Atlantis as described by Plato. The idea that these ancient societies could be remnants of a once great civilization lost to time is not just a flight of fancy, but a hypothesis that deserves exploration. If a civilization capable of influencing or giving rise to the advanced cultures of the Maya existed, it might well have been the Atlantis that Plato spoke of, a society so advanced that its echoes could still be felt thousands of years later in the monumental achievements of its successors. Additionally, the Americas fit the description of a land lying beyond the Pillars of Hercules, larger than Asia Minor and Libya combined, more accurately than any of our other suggestions. The notion that there could have been sporadic contact across the Atlantic, possibly facilitated by a now submerged island acting as a midpoint long before recorded history, is not entirely outside the realm of possibility. Such a scenario could explain how tales of a distant, prosperous land might have travelled back to the Mediterranean, seeding the myths that Plato eventually wove into two of his dialogues. However, this intriguing hypothesis faces its own set of challenges. Chief among them is the distinct lack of direct evidence for a civilization in the Americas that matches the description and timeline of Atlantis. While the pre-Columbian civilizations demonstrated remarkable advancements, the archaeological record has yet to uncover a society that existed that far back of the grandness attributed to Atlantis. The theory that Atlantis could have been an earlier civilization that influenced the development of later cultures in the Americas is speculative without concrete archaeological proof. The Americas were home to complex societies, but evidence of a singular Atlantean-like civilization that predates known cultures and had the capability to impact regions beyond its shores remains elusive. In other words, the notion of transatlantic contact facilitated by an advanced civilization in the Americas, while extremely captivating, lacks the support of definitive archaeological or historical evidence. The vast distances and challenging maritime conditions make it highly unlikely that any such interactions could have occurred to the extent necessary to inform the legends and myths of the ancient Mediterranean world. Not to mention the suggestion that these civilizations exerted control over parts of southern Europe. although that may have been Plato's way of adding some Athenian flair rather than factual interaction. The concept of a large Atlantean-style island in the Atlantic that facilitated early transatlantic contacts and then sank, severing these ties, is my personal favourite. However, there's no geological evidence of a significant landmass disappearing beneath the waves in the manner described by the Atlantis story. Before we go on, please share your thoughts. Which of these four theories do you find most convincing as the true location of Atlantis, and why? I'd love to hear what you think. As we return from our exploration of the physical locations that could match the legend of Atlantis, let's pivot to a thought-provoking possibility. What if Atlantis, as Plato described, is still out there beneath the ocean's vast expanse, its secrets veiled by the depths? This idea stirs the imagination, suggesting that the ocean, with all its uncharted territories, might one day reveal a chapter of human history yet to be known. But, diving deeper into Plato's narrative, we encounter the notion that Atlantis might not have been intended as a literal place at all. Instead, it could have been a lesson woven into the fabric of an allegorical tale. This perspective shines a light on the possibility that Atlantis served multiple symbolic purposes in Plato's works. First, he might have used Atlantis to illustrate the dangers of hubris and the moral decay that can afflict societies that lose sight of virtue. This story of a prosperous civilization falling into greed and corruption, and eventually facing divine wrath, echoes Plato's warnings about the consequences of moral failings. Against the backdrop of his ideal state, governed by wisdom and justice, Atlantis emerges as a counterexample. It's a tale of what happens when a society, despite its might and advancements, fails to uphold these principles, leading to its downfall. A lesson we ourselves may learn the hard way too. Additionally, the depiction of Atlantis as an imperial power, seeking dominance over others, could have served as a critique of Athens' own ambitions and those of the wider Greek world. Through Atlantis' story, Plato cautions against the overreach and moral compromises of imperialism, urging a reflection on the virtues of autonomy and mutual respect among states. The rise and fall of Atlantis also symbolise the transient nature of power, wealth, and human achievements. This metaphor prompts us to consider what endures beyond material success, highlighting the fragility of civilizations and the constant presence of change. In other words, what comes up must go down. Lastly, some interpret Atlantis' detailed description, with its concentric circles, as an allegory for the cosmic order, reflecting Plato's views on the universe's structure and the balance between the material and spiritual. This interpretation invites contemplation of the harmony within the cosmos and the importance of aligning with natural and moral laws. As we conclude our journey through the swirling mists of history and myth, navigating the theories and speculations surrounding Atlantis, we find ourselves at a crossroads of thought. Was Atlantis a tangible city, likely swallowed by the sea and lost to time, leaving behind only vague memories of its grandeur? Or was it purely an allegory crafted by Plato, designed to explore the depths of human morality, the complexities of society, and the eternal dance between order and chaos? Maybe it was both. What's your take on Atlantis? Share your thoughts below and join the conversation. Your insights, theories, and reflections enrich our collective exploration of history's mysteries and the timeless wisdom of ancient texts. And if you enjoy these journeys into the past, consider supporting our Patreon. Your support helps us produce more videos that delve into history, analyze ancient texts, and uncover the stories that have shaped our understanding of the world. Thank you for being a part of this adventure. If you enjoyed this video, you should watch this one next.